Just when the finish line comes into view, retirement, peace, a little well-earned rest, someone shows up with a clipboard full of demands. Maybe it's your grown children needing one more favor. Maybe it's a neighbor asking you to step in again. Or maybe it's a friend who sees your time as free. Suddenly, your quiet mornings turn into errands, your evenings into obligations, and the peace you waited decades for feels miles away. Sound familiar? You've spent your life showing up for others. You were the steady one. The reliable one. But somewhere along the line, being helpful turned into being overwhelmed. You start to wonder, when did my time stop belonging to me? If that thought has ever crossed your mind, this message is for you. Because today, we're going to talk about 5 things you should never let others take from you: your time, your energy, your peace of mind, and most importantly, your right to live on your own terms. This isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. You've carried others long enough. Now it's time to protect what you've built, with quiet strength, wisdom, and the dignity you've earned. Let's begin. 1. Don't take on responsibilities that aren't yours. Have you ever found yourself saying yes to something, and then spending the next week wondering why on earth you agreed to it? Maybe it started with a simple favor. Your niece asked for just a little help organizing her daughter's birthday party. You said sure, thinking it meant helping pick out balloons or setting up a few tables. But within days, you're knee-deep in vendor phone calls, making a guest list, and baking cupcakes at 2 a.m., all while she's out enjoying brunch with her friends. Sound familiar? It's a pattern many of us fall into, especially those of us from a generation raised to be dependable, selfless, and family-oriented. We were taught not to complain, to help where we can, to be the glue that holds things together. And while those values are noble, they can also become traps. Here's the truth: helping doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. There's a big difference between support and servitude. You can be kind without becoming a doormat. You can be generous without being used. I once heard someone say, even the strongest rope will snap if it's pulled too tight for too long. That stuck with me, because I've lived it. I've seen people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who should be enjoying the quiet joys of life, reading a good book, working in the garden, going to church or taking a morning walk, suddenly buried under obligations that don't even belong to them. And worse, when they finally speak up, they're told they're too sensitive or overreacting. Let me be clear, you're not overreacting. You're carrying too much, and it's not yours to carry. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." In other words, peace begins when you decide which burdens you'll carry and which ones you'll finally set down. So how do you start? First, ask yourself one simple question anytime someone asks for help. Does this responsibility truly belong to me? If the answer is no, you have every right to say no, with kindness, but with firmness. Second, stop feeling guilty for prioritizing your own peace. You've earned the right to say, "I'm not available," without needing to explain. Your time is just as valuable as anyone else's. And third, remember this: every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to the things that fill your soul. You've spent a lifetime giving, carrying, supporting. Now is the time to protect your peace. Not with anger, but with quiet conviction. Not because you're selfish, but because you finally understand, your well-being matters too. It's okay to put down the load that was never yours to carry. And it's more than okay to never pick it up again. 2. Don't let others take your financial stability. Imagine this: it's a peaceful morning. You're sitting in your favorite recliner, sipping a warm cup of coffee, watching the birds outside your window. Life feels quiet. Steady. Then the phone rings. It's someone you care about, maybe your adult child, a nephew, or an old friend. Their voice is soft, maybe even a little desperate. "I hate to ask, but I really need a loan. Just this once." And because you're kind and generous, you say yes. But here's the hard truth: just this once rarely stays just once. One loan turns into two. Then comes a request to co-sign a lease, help with a car repair, or float a few $100s until payday. Before you know it, you're pulling from your retirement savings, checking your balance more often, and feeling that familiar twist in your stomach every time the phone rings. My friend David lived through this. He had worked hard his whole life, 40 years at the same company, built up a solid pension, and finally settled into a peaceful retirement in North Carolina. But he became the guy everyone called when they were in a pinch. Family, friends, even casual acquaintances leaned on him for help. And David? He kept giving, until one day, he realized he'd given too much. Not just money, but peace of mind. His generosity had quietly become a source of stress, guilt, and financial uncertainty. Let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with helping those you love. But there's a difference between helping and being taken for granted. Your money, whether it's Social Security, a pension, or savings from decades of hard work, is not an open ATM. It's your safety net, your future healthcare, your travel fund, your ability to live with dignity and freedom. Stoic philosophy reminds us that happiness doesn't come from constant giving, it comes from living in alignment with your values. And one of those values should be self-preservation. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If every time your phone rings, you feel anxious that someone wants something, it's time to set a boundary. So what can you do? First, establish financial boundaries. Not everyone gets a piece of your savings. It's okay to say, "I wish I could help, but I can't right now." No apology required. Second, protect yourself legally. If someone asks you to co-sign anything, stop. Think. Talk to a financial advisor. One signature could cost you thousands. And finally, ask yourself, if I faced an emergency tomorrow, who would be there for me? This stage of life is meant for peace, not pressure. You've spent years being responsible with your money. Don't let guilt or manipulation undo that. Generosity is beautiful. But financial stability is essential. And protecting it? That's not selfish. It's wise. 3. Don't get pulled into family conflicts that don't involve you. Family is one of life's greatest blessings, but let's be honest, it can also be one of its greatest sources of stress. Maybe you've experienced it. You're enjoying a quiet afternoon, catching up on a good book or tending your garden, when the phone rings. It's your sister, your adult son, or a cousin you haven't heard from in months. They're upset, really upset, and they want to vent. But before you know it, venting turns into recruiting. You need to talk to him. She only listens to you. You're the only one who can fix this. And just like that, you're no longer the peaceful bystander, you're the reluctant referee in a fight that was never yours to begin with. Sound familiar? I've been there. A few years back, 2 of my uncles had a dispute over a piece of inherited property. Out of respect, I agreed to mediate. I thought I could help bring clarity, maybe even peace. But instead of helping, I became the scapegoat. One accused me of taking sides. The other said I wasn't doing enough. In the end, nothing was resolved, and I was left feeling drained, misunderstood, and stuck in the middle. Here's the lesson: you don't have to be the peacemaker in every storm. It's tempting, especially for those of us who've always been the glue in the family, to step in. But there's a fine line between support and self-sacrifice. When you get pulled into other people's arguments, especially those rooted in old wounds or control issues, you risk losing your peace, and sometimes your relationships. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." In other words, you're allowed to stay out of it. So what does that look like? First, give yourself permission to say no. You are not required to pick sides or carry emotional baggage that isn't yours. Respond with kindness but firmness. I care about both of you, but I'm not the right person to mediate this. Second, remember that boundaries don't make you selfish, they make you wise. The older you get, the more sacred your time and energy become. you shouldn't spend your golden years walking on eggshells or fielding family drama. And finally, accept that some conflicts aren't yours to fix. People must work through their own issues, in their own time. Your job is not to be the fixer. Your job is to protect your own well-being. So the next time someone tries to drag you into the middle, take a deep breath, step back, and remind yourself, not my circus, not my monkeys. You've earned your peace. Don't trade it for someone else's war. 4. Don't change yourself just to please others. Have you ever been told, you should try dressing younger or everyone's on social media now, you're missing out? Maybe it came from your children, grandchildren, or even well-meaning friends. And while it may have sounded harmless on the surface, deep down it carried an unspoken message: change who you are to fit in. For many of us, especially as we get older, there's subtle pressure to keep up, to stay trendy, stay relevant, stay agreeable. And while growth is always good, changing just to meet someone else's expectations can slowly chip away at your identity. Take Linda, a dear friend of mine. In her 60s, Linda embraced a slower, simpler life. She loved baking from scratch, wrote letters instead of texts, and still balanced her checkbook by hand. But when her daughter began working in tech, Linda started hearing things like, "You should really learn how to use this app, or nobody does it that way anymore, Mom." At first, Linda tried to adapt, hoping it would strengthen their bond. But the more she tried to change, the more she felt disconnected, from her daughter, yes, but more importantly, from herself. Here's the truth: you don't need to reinvent yourself to be accepted. The way you do things, the values you live by, the traditions you carry, these aren't outdated. They're earned. They're built from decades of experience, resilience, and wisdom. They're yours. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." That includes craving approval. When we constantly shift ourselves to win someone else's favor, we lose our center. And over time, that constant bending turns into emotional exhaustion. So how do you stay true to yourself? Start by asking, is this change something I genuinely want, or am I doing it to avoid disappointing someone else? If it doesn't bring you peace or joy, don't do it. Second, stand tall on your values. If you love handwritten notes over emails, keep writing them. If you prefer Sunday service in person over live stream, don't let anyone guilt you otherwise. You have nothing to prove. And finally, remember this: those who truly love you will never require you to become someone else. They'll appreciate who you are, not who they wish you would be. Real love doesn't ask for a costume change, it respects the character beneath it. You've earned the right to live as you are, fully, unapologetically, and without shrinking to fit someone else's mold. So stay true. Stand firm. And if someone doesn't like the authentic you, that's their problem, not yours. 5. Don't put others' happiness above your own. If you've spent most of your life being the dependable one, the one who shows up, who says yes, who sacrifices, you're not alone. Many of us were raised to put others first. To be polite. To be useful. To be good. But somewhere along the way, many of us confused kindness with self-abandonment. Mark, a retired mechanic from Indiana, once shared his story with me. After leaving the workforce, he looked forward to mornings on the porch, fishing trips, and reconnecting with old friends. But instead, his days quickly filled up, with urgent requests from family and neighbors. His younger brother always needed help fixing the car. His daughter would call asking for babysitting help. His neighbor just needed a hand putting up fencing, again. Mark said yes every time. But little by little, the things that brought him joy, his morning walks, his poker nights, his garden, disappeared from his life. People didn't mean harm. But no one stopped to ask, do you have time, or what do you need? Mark wasn't just exhausted, he felt invisible. Here's the truth: you are not responsible for everyone else's happiness. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what isn't yours to hold. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man is happy when he lives in harmony with himself." Happiness isn't something we manufacture for others while letting our own joy wither. It's something we must guard and cultivate, especially in the later chapters of life. So what does this look like in practice? First, give yourself permission to pause before saying yes. Ask, will this bring me peace, or just pressure? If you're always giving, but rarely receiving time or kindness in return, it's not love, it's imbalance. Second, reclaim your time. Think of it like money in a savings account. Every yes you give is a withdrawal. And if you're not careful, you'll run dry. Schedule time for yourself, whether it's a walk around the block, a trip to the library, or simply turning your phone off for a quiet afternoon. Third, learn the strength of a graceful no. You don't need an excuse. You don't owe an explanation. "I can't right now" is enough. And lastly, remember this life is yours. You've worked hard. You've given much. You've loved deeply. And now, you deserve joy, rest, and meaning on your terms. The right people won't resent your boundaries, they'll respect them. Because real love doesn't drain. It gives. It uplifts. And it never demands that you dim your light to keep others comfortable. You've earned the right to be happy. Don't let guilt steal it from you. Choose yourself, lovingly, confidently, and without regret. Conclusion: reclaiming your peace, one decision at a time. By the time we reach our 60s, we've carried more than our share, raising families, showing up for work, supporting others through life's highs and lows. We've been the steady hands, the listening ears, the dependable shoulders. But now, perhaps more than ever, it's time to ask, what do I need? What brings me peace? You see, protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's sacred. Whether it's saying no to burdens that aren't yours, standing firm in your financial boundaries, staying out of family drama, refusing to mold yourself for others' approval, or finally putting your happiness first, these are acts of strength, not stubbornness. You've earned the right to live your life with intention, not obligation. You've earned mornings that begin quietly, afternoons that feel light, and nights that bring rest, not guilt. So here's your invitation: choose one thing today that you're ready to reclaim. Maybe it's your time. Maybe it's your voice. Maybe it's your peace of mind. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Honor it. Because you're not just someone's parent, sibling, or friend. You're a whole person, with a story, with value, and with a life still full of meaning. And it's not too late to live it on your terms. The power to protect your peace has always been yours. Now, it's time to use it.